Here's what you should know about your local housing market in this week's Market Update. We've been dealing with low inventory for years and continue to do so. And much of the blame for low inventory has been placed on the lock-in effect. The fact that a lot of homeowners have these very low interest rates. And if they were to move, even if the market on their sale and their purchase has changed similarly, they would be facing a higher interest rate on their new home, which makes it unattractive to make that move. The other big blame is simply that baby boomers do not want to give up their big houses and downsize, even though they're not using most of the space in their homes. However, there is another factor that is not being talked about all that much that I think is a huge contributor to the low inventory, and that is property sale contingencies. For most of my career, property sale contingencies were very commonplace. Many times people use the equity from the home that they currently own to purchase their next home. It's a great way. You talk about those starter homes. Why is nobody buying starter homes anymore? Well, because right now it's nearly impossible to use the equity from your current home, your starter home, to then springboard into your upsize, your forever home. And one of the reasons that property sale contingencies have gone away is the market competitiveness. Sellers, it's been very much a seller's market. If you're selling your home and you can sell your home without accepting a property sale contingency, it is certainly much more attractive for a seller. However, it really just locks up a lot of inventory. I've been having to speak with a lot of my potential buyers lately that say, oh yeah, I've got, many cases they say we're cash buyers. Well, that cash will be coming from the sale of their home. So actually there's a larger hindrance on that purchase than if you simply just had a mortgage. Right now we're still in a very much a seller's market, even though some homes are sitting a little bit longer. I think we're still a long way away from property sale contingencies coming back into play. On a case-by-case basis, we might see them, but any buyer out in the market right now really shouldn't be counting on the idea that they could get away with purchasing with a property sale contingency. So as much as I'm hoping to see some shifts in the housing market to really unlock it, in my opinion, the real key to unlocking this housing market that's been really tight lately is getting us to a point where we can see property sale contingencies become commonplace again. However, if you're in a situation where you have to sell your home to buy another home, let's chat. We've got many different other tools and scenarios that can come into play to bridge that gap, to make that home sale and purchase a reality. Not as attractive as the old school property sale contingency, but there are options. So let's be talking about them. But ultimately, I would love to see the time where those property sale contingencies come back into play and really unlock this market. So that being said, let's get into the stats this week and see what's happening in our local markets in Morristown, Chatham, Madison, Harding, Mars Plains, Mendham, Chester, Bernardsville, Basking Ridge, and Randolph. This past week, we saw 60 homes come on the market in these towns. It's a 2% decrease from last week. Out of these, 43 of these were single-family houses, and 17 of them are condos or townhouses. The average list price of these homes, $1,237,000. That's a 20% decrease over last week's average list price. Total inventory is pretty much locked. We're currently seeing 302 homes actively on the market in these towns. That's a 1% decrease from last week. So an ever so slight decrease in total inventory. Total homes sold. This past week, we saw 44 homes sell in these towns. That's a 42% increase over the prior week. Not surprising, we're starting to see a lot of those spring sales materialize and close. Average list price of these homes that were sold this past week, $1,058,000. Average sale price, $1,130,000. So this past week, we saw homes sell for an average of 7.2% above the list price in these towns. Now, this past week, we saw no individual town with an average sale price below the list price, and none even at the list price. The smallest amount we saw above list price was this past week in Mendham, where homes sold for an average of 3.2% above list price. We saw Randolph at 3.7% above list price. We saw Chester at 4% above list price. Basking Ridge at 4.8% above list price. We're looking at Marsh Plains 7% above list price. Bernardsville 7.3% above list price. Morristown 8.7% above list price. Madison at 12.2% above list price. And Chatham at 13.8% above list price. So while we did see in the past few weeks a few towns that sold up below list price, it's not the case this week. Let's see if this is just what we're looking at from the early spring materializing, or if this trend continues and the market stays extremely competitive. But what I'm seeing on the front lines, some homes aren't selling so quickly. Some homes are seeing some negotiability. Most homes are still selling pretty quickly and with pretty competitive situations, but not every single one. So you do have to be up on the market and look at everything on a case-by-case basis. Do keep in mind the homes that are still sitting on the market are not going to show up in these stats. They have already showed up as listed, but we're not going to see them show up in the under contract or sold stats quite yet. Under contract, this past week we saw 49 homes go under contract. That's 17% more than we saw last week. The average list price of these homes was $1,055,000, and the average days on market for these homes that went under contract this past week was 21 days on the market, which is 11% less than this past week. I hope you guys really enjoyed these stats. There's a lot of nuances in the market. It's ever changing. We are always staying on top of that for you. We will keep you updated in these weekly updates, but do reach out to me. Let's have a chat about your individual situation. The market, we might see some shifts. It might be a long time. So let's figure out how your home purchase and sale goals fit into this market and how we can make this market work for you right now. Thanks so much for checking in with me. Hope you have a great weekend, and I'll catch you again next week.